I was working as an interim head of IT in a social care department for one large metropolitan council. And I was approached by the performance manager to say, would I go into the database of their case management system and change the dates on which assessments were done? I said, why do you want me to do that? And the answer was, well, it's because our key performance measures aren't coming out right. We're showing that we're taking too long to do our assessments, so we want to shift the dates back. So I said, so you want me to lie, is that right? Well, no, because we think the social worker actually finished the report on time, but they didn't quite file it on the computer. But do you know that? Well, not really, no. Anyway, you got the message. Having process-related measures forces people to start looking for ways to fiddle them. Because A, they're useless, and everyone knows they're useless, and they don't actually tackle the issue. We need to start looking at real outcomes. And if you look at outcomes seriously and look at the services you're delivering, you end up thinking, well, if I'd realized the outcome was that, I wouldn't be doing it the way I'm doing it. Someone mentioned planning this morning. We spend hours looking at planning and refining the process of the planning application. How to make that as streamlined and lean and sleek as we possibly can. And most councils have succeeded. They've stripped days and weeks sometimes off the time it takes to process the planning application. And yet when you go back to first principles and think, why do we have development control at all? It's about ensuring that we create environments that are good to live in, that provide all the right infrastructure, etc., etc. Now, if that's the outcome, then you'd come up with much better ways of engaging the communities instead of producing local plans written in planning speak that nobody can quite understand, and you file them in the local council office and expect people to come in their droves to read them. It's not the way you would achieve that outcome. So instead you focus on the process. Let them put in their applications and we can reject them. That'll be good. That way we can tell them what's right and what's wrong. No, the real outcome is that you engage the community so that every application is almost guaranteed success because they understand and you understand that you're both working towards the same objectives. You know, my daughter moved to Australia, so I go to Australia occasionally. And the first thing you notice in Australia, apart from the fact that they have Christmas in the middle of summer for some strange reason, there's no litter on the ground. Now that's pretty clever. And even if you see someone drop litter, there'll be someone else tapping them on the shoulder saying, excuse me, you've dropped that. And they'll pick it up. Right, try that in this country. See what happens to you. Anyway, we've got this mindset that, yeah, we'll make the process of picking up litter as efficient as we can. We'll apply lean. And, you know, as soon as we get a report of litter or graffiti or whatever, then the process will swing into action and we'll respond hugely efficiently and it'll all be sorted. We missed the point that actually what we're trying to achieve is an outcome of no litter. Now, okay, we're beginning to tackle it by going to the manufacturers who produce all the litter in the first place and saying, actually, reduce your packaging. And secondly, well, in the case of Australia, I asked a few people, why is it you don't have litter? And the simple answer was, we teach social responsibility in schools. Wow, that's a novel idea. I hadn't thought of that one. But here, you know, that would be too constraining on these poor little angels to try and confine the way they behave. No, it's not acceptable. But that's how we've got to think. It worked with drink driving over 20 years. We influenced how people thought about drink driving. It was killing lots of people. It still is, but not so many. And there is an attitude now that it's not acceptable. We changed attitudes towards seatbelts. I worked in the Home Office for a while in fire research, and at the time, the biggest single source of fires, and hence of deaths in domestic situations, was chip pans. Now, what do? Chip pan fires? You can throw huge loads of money at the fire service to make them respond even faster to all these fires, or you go and speak to manufacturers and say, these chip pans that sit on gas stoves are not terribly safe. And so you encourage, and this is what happened, you encourage the development of electric thermostatically controlled chip bands that just don't go on fire. And that ultimately was the solution. So there's different ways of looking at things. You have to look at the outcome that you're trying to achieve rather than necessarily making the process as efficient as it possibly can be. Lastly, think benefits. Now this may seem strange, but there's a lot of councils that I come across that have actually done all the right things. Now we know that there are three things that a council can do to save shed loads of money, typically 20 to 30%. Number one, move to self-service on the web. Get rid of your contact centre, don't get rid of your contact centre, run down your contact centre to about 10% of its current size. Do as much as you can self-service on the web. Enable your staff to work more efficiently, and the key to that is have all your information managed electronically, so you're not fiddling around looking for paper files. You're not forcing social workers to keep going back to the office to file case papers and then looking for them again afterwards. Also, you enable mobile working. And all of that together enables you to save typically 30 to 40% of your office space because you've got rid of the filing cabinets. It reduces your staff numbers by 30%. And that means more reduction in office space. There are significant numbers of councils around the country now who have halved their office space. They have sold half the office accommodation. Sometimes they've sold the whole lot and moved into special purpose-built, much reduced office space. We know those savings are achievable, and yet do we see councils up and down the country actually doing it? Yes, a few of them, but not all of them. There are still saying, well, I'm not sure. There's one council at the moment doing a £40,000 consultancy study to look at the cost benefits of moving transactions from their contact centre to the web. It's a no-brainer. You don't even have to ask the question. Far less spend £40,000 asking the question. The problem is getting the benefits is painful. Getting the benefits means losing staff and losing office space. Two things. Neither of those are pleasant, and a lot of the councils simply won't do it. They get to the point, they've done all the right things. One council I visited, yes, we brought in electronic management of all our information, we've got mobile working, we've got all these efficiencies, and here are all the filing cabinets still in the office. And you say, why have you still got filing cabinets? And the answer is, well, we didn't like to get rid of the paper, just in case. Or in one case, one district council said we can't get rid of them because we've got one member of staff who refuses to work with the computer system. Now, okay, that's about £2 million a year savings they are giving up for the sake of one member of staff that they won't tackle the management challenge for. So the benefits are there to be had, but you've actually got to grasp them. They don't just magically happen because you've done all the right things. You actually have to get rid of staff, and you actually have to get rid of office space and estates and plant and so on and so forth. That's the difficult bit. So there we go. That's the message. Think big, think outcomes, think benefits. Just leave you with one parting thought. One of the things we don't do very well is to learn. The speaker this morning mentioned about magistrates' courts. That was very interesting because I used to work for 10 years in the magistrates' courts. I was head of their systems. And he mentioned about they've just introduced printers into the magistrates' court in order to do immediate resulting because it saves huge amounts of time. In 1986, I did precisely that. I introduced printers into magistrates' courts to provide instant resulting. And we had a university measuring the outcomes, 30% reduction in the cost and 30% reduction in waiting time for all the staff concerned in running the magistrates' courts. Hugely beneficial. So why did it take 24 years to actually be reinvented? The answer is, at that time, the system we were using highlighted, amongst other things, because it had lots of data, time's up, lots of data about the legal profession, and it highlighted the fact that some lawyers were double counting their time. It might be difficult to imagine, but the Law Society took exception to this and said, you must not use this system in any of our courts. So that's why it didn't work. So anyway, thank you very much.